Hey, welcome back to Of the Devil. That's me, Cheesy. We're gonna finally finish off this trial this time. It should not go any longer, I don't think. Anyways, Huey Rogers is on the stand. Is it Huey? Hugh? Yeah, whatever. Anyways, I think he's being extra sus. And now that we've kind of boiled things down and looking at all the evidence and the situations we kind of uncovered in the last one, we're gonna figure this shit out. And I'm trying to figure out if Rogers is like in on the corruption thing or is planning on silencing someone involving the corruption. Anyways, I'm gonna figure it out. It's gonna be fine. Anyways, let's continue. I was merely exploring a possibility raised by this witness's sworn statement, Your Honor, that he never heard any gunshots in the area himself. And I stand by that. Good. Does the defense have questions for this witness, Your Honor? Or should we all continue to glare at one another for the rest of the day? Tempting, but I guess we better not. Your Honor, we ask that the witness testify once more about how he and his partner arrived on the scene. Yeah, no problem. I'll repeat it as many times as you like. I'm gonna have to call you on that. Whistle. Yeah! Oh, wait, what? Wait, it was quiet night. Partner heard gunshots. We headed for the... Is this the same... like, statement as the last time? Oh, it is. Okay, well, I messed up. Now I gotta wait through all of it. All right, I'll just go. About a minute later, heard a thud. Yeah, okay. Adonai, are you waiting for something, perhaps? I am. Just savoring the moment, I suppose. There's only one thing to do at this point, and once I hit the trigger on it, things will really take off. Yes, it was a quiet night. Yeah, I was busy. Yeah. Oh, what? Quit that already. As I've mentioned, I feel many times by now that it is a very unpleasant tone, Adonai. Sorry, Butterfingers. Hasn't anyone ever told you it's in poor taste to use the same trick twice? It's been a lot more than twice now. And besides, it's only an issue when it's used twice on the same audience. Speaking of which... Uh-oh. You gonna answer that, Officer Rogers? Just to fill you in, officer, what I accidentally pressed just now is a whistle found at the scene of the crime. Weird coincidence that my little slip-up coincided with your phone vibrating. Can you read us the notification you received just now? Or should the court computer simply force open all your devices and splatter your data across the walls? Oh no, don't stop me. Officer Rogers, you have a so-called receiver application installed on that device, do you not? Yes, I do. Is that in line with department guidelines on use of third-party software on state-provided devices? It's not breaking any regulations. Doesn't need to earn you any demerits to make you look guilty of sin. You and your partner, that is. Did Chopin also have the app installed? We can go check. If having that app on your phone makes you guilty of something, you'd have to arrest half the cops patrolling the lower wards. What do you mean? It's common knowledge that orcas use unconventional tactics to talk to one another. Flags on buildings, clothes left out on lines, smoke signals, probably even messenger pigeons. Where? Don't jump scare me like that. When you've got a figure this statuesque, every pigeon is a disaster waiting to happen. Anyway, whistles like that one aren't uncommon. So is it common for members of the police department to try to listen in on the chatter of groups like the Blue Blood Mafia? Lower wards aren't a place a cop walks into without every weapon they can carry. And that goes double for information. So there's nothing suspicious about his phone reacting to that horrible, horrible racket. Adonai, Have I had to put up with that noise for nothing? Not for nothing. The witness is correct, Your Honor. There's nothing suspicious about having a receiver installed on any of your devices, even if you aren't a cop. What's incriminating is the fact that Officer Rogers' device responded to the specific frequency of this whistle. Sorry, officer. Little Blue Birdie already told the court that you need to input a frequency in order to get alerts for it. Yeah, I know that. So does the whole force, in fact. What? What? What do you mean the whole force? I see. The hell is she reading over there? Officer Rogers, testify about this anonymous tip that the police department received last night. Ah. Oh, 4. Yeah, I'm with you, Morgan. What the hell? Haven't seen the submission myself, but it came through the department network straight to everyone's inboxes. Be advised, anonymous tip suggesting potential Orca analog chatter at the frequency listed below. Patrol officers in a lower ward use this information at your discretion. That's absurd. What's the point of informing every cop in the city about a secret communications channel? The Blue Bloods would find out their line is compromised within minutes. Would they? I don't know. I don't control how anonymous tips get handled. But as soon as you got an email telling you there might be criminal communications occurring at a random frequency, you tuned into it right away? Believe it or not, I'm a little concerned about criminal communications these days. Having seen my partner murdered by an Orca right in front of me, barely 24 hours before nearly getting shot myself. Yo, you didn't see him get killed. Back up. You saw the moment of your partner's death? That's news to the court. Yeah. I'm sorry, bitch. Sorry, I don't know. I'm mad at him. You know what I mean. No, I don't. Your Honor, the tip was submitted and the frequency was spread throughout the police department network. Likely because the Blue Bloods believed it to be compromised, having already been used at a scene where 4 of their members died. Officer Rogers may have the receiver app on his phone, but so do many other police officers in the city. The app doesn't provide timestamps of when frequencies are added, so there's no proof when his phone first started listening for the frequency. Neither he nor his partner were members of the organized crimes unit. Therefore, they had no criminal informants of their own. They could not have obtained this frequency before the rest of the department. Since the defense cannot prove that this signal was acquired illegitimately. Yeah, seriously, what the heck? I never said I couldn't prove that. Come on, Emma. Come on. That's some weak sauce. Okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to present. No. Scrap of paper. Creeks data pad. That doesn't seem right. Red ink. Oh, wait. Gotta have maximum stuff. Magus. Wait. What am I looking for? I was going to acquire that frequency. Gilbert says, found on tanks during frisk 1 week. Oh, yeah, that's right. There was the frisk 1 week ago. Jailbroken, illegal to possess. Oh, yeah, we talked about how it was weird that he got away with a gun. Wait, let me see that. Shit, oh, yeah, my knife. No. Where's the Magus? Magus. Registered. Subject in possession. Subject in possession of communication software. Yes. Oh, communication software. Subject released with warning and encodings. Oh. Oh ho. So wait. Found on tanks. Civilian frisk by TC and 8 Hugh Rogers. And you know what? I didn't even realize that a while ago. So that's tactic Chopin. All right. I know what to use. Sorry, Emma, but I'm awesome. The gun? What of it? Not just any gun. Magus. How do you say that? It's like Magus. Magus. Anyways, whatever. Legally registered to our Anchor 10. And how do I know that? Because this gun was identified and scanned over a week ago, when Tanks was briefly detained by some well-meaning officers on patrol. Got 'em. That report. Officers TC and HR reported to the following. Subject in possession of firearm in violation of parole. And subject in possession of suspect communication software installed on personal phone. He wrote all of that in the report? Come on, the man was meticulous, if not annoying. You and your partner found the emergency frequency for Creek's pod over a week ago by skimming Tank's phone. And sat on it until last night when you kindly dropped it off in the tip box. The hell are you even saying? Why would we frisk a perp, get good intel, and keep it to ourselves? For the same reason your partner might report a generic shots heard over the police network when he already knew exactly where to look. The same reason he'd be ecstatic at finding documents on Prop 492 at the site of an orca bloodbath. You wanted your gold stars. You wanted to be the first on the scene at the site of a blue blood massacre. What do you want, Emma? Counsel is badgering, Your Honor. Emma, get out of the way. And losing her meager thread of logic in the process. Not really. The previous witness testified that there was, in fact, a silent alarm that night. A silent alarm that needs to be actively pressed could only have gone out before Creek's heart stopped. Said witness responded to the alarm by traveling on foot, and yet arrived well before Rogers and Chopin. The lower wards are maze-like. She could have been closer. That whistle has a limited range over which it can be received. You proposed that Officer Rogers and Chopin were within that limited range at 9:45 p.m., yes? So what? Obviously you do, or else they would never have received the frequency at all. So if the person H is on foot and individual R is in a police car, and they both receive a signal at the same time, and a train leaves Appletown at 3 p.m., that seems like an irrelevant factor. Oh, music's back. All the court need consider is this. How could Officer Rogers and Chopin have possibly arrived later than someone traveling on foot if all three were within that range? Can't believe I told my geometry teacher that none of this would ever be useful. This isn't geometry, damn it. It's just you're a robot. Why would you have a geometry teacher? Logic. Yeah, she is using logic. But like, I don't know, man. They could have like... Why would they show up immediately, though? If there's like an immediate crisis, wouldn't they like wait and... I mean, there are only two people. Wouldn't they wait for backup? Or wait, if there's like a thing to uncover? Whatever, man. They just didn't make it in time. It's okay. If I'm right about the motivation for Chopin's actions that night, if he was sitting in his police car and suddenly got a notification telling him some blue bloods were having a life or death emergency, how would he react in that moment? He was excited to get the thing. It would seem that defense does not have evidence available to address this contradiction, Your Honor. Emma, shut the fuck up. Evidence explaining exactly how Chopin proceeded to the crime scene? I mean, I don't have that evidence. I don't have that evidence, but like, don't they have like a police thing? Like, don't they follow the police officer thing, like the camera? Why don't we just use that? Is that evidence? I mean, I don't have that. Alt tour, Freak's note. I don't have that. I don't have that. Okay, yeah, I just don't have that. Regretfully, Your Honor, we do not have such evidence in our possession. Yeah, got him. Maybe. But fortunately, Your Honor, we live in a surveillance police state. Pardon? And that makes it pretty easy to surveil police officers. The officer's patrol car, their cell phones, traffic cameras, and optics data. I could request any of it. Hell. Your Honor, I formally subpoena all of it. You know what? That's right. What? What? Can she do that? I'm not sure. I'm still learning. Ray's drunk swipe at my front door reminded me exactly how much power the police have. but it was her dutiful checking in that made me realize just how hard it is to lose a cop in this city. Whatever it takes to answer this question for the court. After Officer Chopin reported that he heard shots fired at 9:45 p.m., exactly how long did he and his partner do donuts in the parking lot before actually driving off to the scene? Ooh. Kind of a big ask from the defense, but it's entirely doable. Why is it a big ask? You just go look it up. Do the police object? The people, of course, object to any data collection effort that would be a waste of taxpayers' money or a violation of their privacy. So we'd prefer that the range of this request be narrowed somewhat, narrowed perhaps from everything to something. Happy to do that, Your Honor. I promise not to act like a kid in a candy shop when browsing through. If you do this, if you subpoena that data, you'll what? What is it, Rogers? You'll what? You'll just see me driving like a lethargic moron. Are you not that already, Officer Rogers? He seems different. Hardly recognize him. Agreed, but I recognize his type. Soldier. Oh, I see. He likes to play stupid. Well, guess what? You are stupid anyways. Your Honor, what the defense is suggesting is largely accurate. Pardon? That's a first. Though there are some corrections I feel I should make at this time. No objections here? Officer Chopin is the one who discovered the frequency when we apprehended Anchor 10. He entered it into both our receiver apps at the same time, without my knowledge. It wasn't until the night in question that he chose to inform me of the intel he had obtained, and how he planned on acting on it. At 9:45 p.m., we received a signal. Before I could react, he had put out a notice on the police network that he had heard gunshots. So what, does he pretend to be shitty? Does he pretend to be shitty at shooting? If he's a soldier, he must know how to shoot. It was at this time that he told me to drive towards Blue Blood territory. As he started to explain to me what he believed we would find, I chose to take a suboptimal route. We spent several minutes in traffic as he berated me for my sense of direction. So you both knew this silent alarm would lead you to some kind of blue blood emergency. But only you realized that meant you should take your time getting there. Logically, a silent alarm is triggered during a confrontation, not afterwards. I had no desire to walk into the crossfire of an orca gunfight without backup. You could have had backup. Easily. My partner had no desire to share our intel, or how we obtained it. I apologize to the court, Your Honor, for being evasive or misleading during these proceedings. And I intend to take full responsibility for doing so. But I was not eager to admit the role my own cowardice played in these events. Nor would I ever want to imply that Officer Chopin was responsible in any way for his own murder. Very warm sentiments from the officer, delivered with a voice as cozy as ice water. Yeah. So you're telling the court that you and your partner arrived at what you expected to be a bloodbath, and you still shot the lock off a door and started stomping around inside while separated from one another? Respectfully, ma'am, with the route I took and the time it took for us to arrive, we expected to find all targets neutralized. And that expectation was reinforced when we arrived on the street and found the whole vicinity dead quiet. Yet we were still the first on the scene despite my stalling for time. I think that might have enthused my partner. He was excited, and I let him set the pace. It's my deepest regret that I agreed with his request to split up. First to arrive on the scene. We know that wasn't the case. A blue blood got there well before you and your partner. That's what you were talking about? The witness wasn't present for that individual's testimony. He's merely giving the facts as he knows them, and he can't have known that there was a blue blood in the building. On the contrary, he already testified about encountering them yesterday, as they made a not-so-silent retreat down into the alleyway. That was a blue blood making all that racket? I see. My partner, Chopin, he shouted that there was someone scrambling around down in the alley not long before he was killed. Must have opened the windows on the third floor to check. That's a new detail, Officer Rogers. Ooh. Pardon me if I failed to mention it yesterday. It occurs to me you weren't present in the courtroom when this other curious detail was brought to light. The fact that there was another weapon at the scene of the crime. A bloodied knife, which somehow ended up down in the dumps. Know anything about that? No, ma'am, I do not. Playing dumb? Wrong move. But I do know Sinus is a bunch of amateurs with conflicted priorities. Explain this to the court, then. Forensics analysis had already shown that this knife was the murder weapon used to stab Miller, getting a healthy amount of his blood on it in the process. It's also been established that this knife must have been what my client used to cut his own bindings. If you say so. The evidence says so. If the defense isn't interested in asking the witness questions, perhaps they'll answer mine. What does that have to do with Officer Rogers? Everything, of course. Allow me to show you why. Wait, what? What does the knife have to do with him? Whistle. No. Arrested with numerous injuries, cut on left finger. You know, maybe. Arrived on second to the scene, saw unlocked first floor vault, found Rogers arresting Sosuke. Wait a sec. What does the knife have to do? Wait, let me look at that log again. What's going on here? Explain this court. Forensic has shown that this knife was a murder weapon to stab Miller, getting a healthy amount of his blood on it in the process. It's been established this knife has been the client used. Okay. It's London's testimony. It's been a little bit of time. Where are you, London testimony? There we go. London testified he and Reyes arrived at the second. Rogers had already apprehended the suspect, so we focused on securing the area. Sunshine and I cleared the first floor. All the rooms were empty, but one was unlocked. Okay. They already apprehended the suspect. But that's the murder weapon, right? Like, so you guys must have at least seen it. The murder weapon just couldn't have been just thrown out like that. If the window was closed... Yeah, that's the thing. If the window was closed, then there's no way that the knife ended up out there before them, right? Is that what we're trying to say? Better not be Sosuke's bindings, you know, it's just, medical records, because I'm like, I don't know how that relates. We know for a fact that Sosuke had to use that knife to cut his bonds, yeah. And Detective London has testified that Officer Rogers apprehended Sosuke alone. So why can't the officer who apprehended the man last known to be using this knife tell us how it ended up in the alley? Yeah, the window was closed. That is a question well worth asking the witness. I have no idea what you're talking about. When I found your client, he had the magus and he had the sword. The sword he had stuck through my partner. This knife you're talking about? Where'd you find it? In the trash. Drum. Down in the alley. Well, then some crime scene tech idiot must have thrown it out thinking it was waste. Or some sinus lackey tossed it as a prank. Yeah, okay. I'm sure they would do that to their own, like, crime scene where 4 of them are dead. And saying, like, you know, the Blue Bloods wouldn't do that. And also... Huh? I wouldn't know. Yeah, okay, Mr. I'm not guilty. Because I spent hours being debriefed in that room on the 3rd floor while they set up the arcs. I spent all night in a room with my partner's corpse. You could have thrown it out the window. I don't know, man. Never took a trip down to empty the recycling bin. You could throw it out the window. Wasn't the thing already on fire? Anyways, whatever. We know the knife was with Sosuke at one point. And we know it ended up down in the alley later. So it stands for a reason that someone had to walk it downstairs and out of the building. If Rogers never left that room all night, then someone else must have moved it. Wait, what? No. He could have removed the knife. What the hell are you talking about? No, he totally could have. 0 points for you. 0 points again. Yeah, sorry, Sarah. In this case, I agree with Morgan. All that processing power and you still can't manage to think in 3D? It doesn't matter if Officer Rogers stayed in that room all night, Your Honor. All anyone needed to do to dispose of the knife was to step out onto the fire escape and drop the knife down into the barrel waiting below. No need to leave the 3rd floor. No need to leave the crime scene at all, Officer Rogers. What kind of trick shot bullshit are you talking about? That is a long drop, Your Honor. A straight drop. Gravity's convenient like that. The target was a small drum in the dark alley. Said drum was burning when the police arrived. The target would have been plainly lit, and I've taken both of your arguments into consideration, and after much deliberation, I have come to the conclusion that the proposed method of removing the knife from the 3rd floor is not actually that hard to do. Assuming a modicum of hand-eye coordination and a basic understanding of Newtonian physics, yeah. Well, obviously, couldn't anyone manage that? Practiced martial artists who are masters of every muscle in their body, individuals like yourself, and me, might find it hard to relate. That's so funny. But there are some who would struggle with the task. Yourself and I. Wait, hand-eye coordination? Eloquently put, Your Honor. So you must agree that someone with hand-eye coordination is so bad that they hold the record for worst marksmanship in the entire police department. Someone with such poor aim that they opted to physically assault a target rather than shoot them? Someone like that might find it impossible to pull that off. Yeah, I knew this was going to bite us in the ass. Check. How dare you? Are you talking about me? She's talking about me, Your Honor. And while I find her tone unflattering, none of what she said is false. Apologies that dropping the knife from the fire escape didn't occur to me as a possibility. It just must be that, for me personally, such a method of compromising a crime scene is not only unthinkable, it's impossible. Of all the stupid details to come back and bite me in the ass, the piss-poor aim that London mentioned? Is it possible that Officer Rogers faked his poor aim at the academy? It's easy to not hit your target. But why would he intentionally flunk a shooting test years ago to give himself such a strange alibi here today? He didn't flunk his test. He got the very lowest score you could possibly get while still being certified. Good Lord, you'd have to be trying to. If his goal was to receive the exact minimum number of points needed to pass, his margin of error would actually be much smaller than anyone simply doing their best. But then, what about when he first saw me? It's true that any other cop who saw me standing over their dead partner would have just unloaded. Instead, he ran up and hit me. If he's not actually that bad of a shot, why am I still alive? That's the story Rogers has been telling so far, that he instinctually didn't bother to fire. His gun wasn't discharged, and Sosuke's got the bruises, so he accepted that line of reasoning. But if I assume he's more dangerous than he's led us to believe, why wouldn't he have just shot Sosuke when he had the chance? He could have told his fellow officers whatever story he liked afterwards, and we wouldn't even be having this trial. I feared for my life. That's all he needed to say. Under what circumstances would it have been impossible for him to claim that? Your Honor, I'm reminded just now that my client and the witness were in a physical altercation. I apprehended a murder suspect, yes. Surely you're not suggesting I used unreasonable force. If anything, you used unreasonably little. Not at all. But I imagine things happened fairly fast. Isn't it possible that a knife on Sosuke's person may have been knocked away into a corner during that moment? What are you... It may have. I can't say that I would have necessarily noticed something clattering onto the floor while I was trying to cuff a violent perp. No? Perhaps, Your Honor, the witness ought to testify about everything. he recalls from the moment he confronted my client. Jogging his memory might be the only way we can address these gaps in our knowledge. No objections. Then let's hear it. Good versus evil, man versus machine. Cop versus robber. I'm not a machine or a robber. Don't worry, Sosuke. If need be, Adonai would go through a whole trial just to prove you're a machine. What kind of joke is that? I mean, we did do that for her, even though that's not true. Yoru. Fire escape. Sosuke's medical records. All right. Okay, well, I guess we'll figure it out. When that blue blood fled down the fire escape into the alley, I poked my head out the second floor window. What? But then I heard a sickening thump from above, third floor, where I knew where my partner was. Okay. Reflexively drew my services, run up the stairs. No. I was shocked, but he was clearly injured, and the sword was stuck before I knew it. Running. He turned to me with a dull shock as I whipped my pistol butt onto his forehead. Wait, huh? Collapsed after that. Wait. It dropped the knife at the time. I wouldn't have noticed it. Despite his change in posture, he's still telling the same story. Yeah. Wait. What does his medical record say? Got hit in the head. Time of booking, bruised left eye, bust slit. Blunt trauma to the anterior front side of his head. When or where these additional injuries sustained? Okay. Largest wound found on the crown of the skull, back of the head. Wait, what did he say? Wait, I know it's in the log somewhere. Mr. rushed up the stairs. Okay. He turned to me with a dull shock as I whipped my pistol butt into his forehead. No. No, it's the back of his head. It's the back of his head, right? Yeah, he hasn't changed his tune. But he is giving more detail than ever before. Yes, he is. And one of those details is about to bite him in the ass. Yes? Okay. I was running at him. He turned to me with dull shock as I whipped my pistol. Okay. And I have to choose the most wounds front of the body. Yeah, you didn't hit him in the front. He was hit in the back of the head. Sounds very brave, Officer Rogers, but that's physically impossible. How could you have knocked my client out with one strike to the forehead when it was the back of his head that was injured? That's what I thought. What are you talking about? Yesterday he had bruises across his entire body. An exaggeration that doesn't hold up to the scrutiny of his actual medical record. Largest wound found on the crown of the head. The crown, as in the top of the back of the head. The butt of a pistol leaves a surprisingly specific impression on the human body, Officer Rogers. I assume Dr. Sato is still in the building. Perhaps we should call her back and have her examine my client on the stand. Sosuke, you'll have to remove your shirt. To get my head checked? We're all very happy about this, apparently. That would be a waste of time, Your Honor. Aw. Counselor Morgan has taken advantage of some rather vague wording in the medical record to make her argument. Largest wound. But the fact is, the defendant was covered in various bruises all over his body when he was taken into custody, including on the front of his skull. She's not wrong. I still remember every ache. It's entirely possible that when Officer Rogers struck the defendant on the forehead, the blow was glancing, but still hard enough to knock the defendant backwards, and he had fallen backwards hard. He very easily could have sustained a large wound to the crown of his head at the moment he hit the ground. Respectfully, Your Honor, that's ultimately not something either the people nor the defense are experts on. Even if it were, neither of us could examine wounds that are no longer visible. Sosuke's injuries, they've mostly healed as of this morning. Hope that injection helped you sleep really well last night, Sosuke. Your Honor, as I see it, Either we could extend this trial indefinitely, with both the people and the defense flying in X-ray specialists and concussion analysis to argue back and forth about fracture lines. Yeah. Or we could accept that the events more or less took place as the witness described. He hit the defendant on the head, and then the defendant fell backwards onto the floor. No, he didn't. What? No, he didn't fall backwards. That's ridiculous. Didn't he fall frontwards? The scene of the crime place, milk record. Numerous bruises, internal bleeding throughout the torso and skull, blood from various sources across the anterior front of the body. No, he didn't fall forward, because otherwise he would have had blood on his back. He did not have blood of various sources on his back. Yeah, I'm sorry, Emma, but I'm gonna wreck you. If the head wound's open to interpretation, then I raise. Medical data. No, it doesn't. I feel like I'm going nuts. Forget expert witnesses. Let's just all look at the medical data with our own two peepers. Peepers? Officer Rogers claims that Sosuke was hit on the forehead and fell backwards. But what would he have fallen onto? In that room? Probably blood and guts. Yuck. You're exactly right. All kinds of firsts happening in the courtroom today. He would have gotten blood all across his back. But that's not how he looked when he was arrested. The medical report clearly states that he had blood on the front of his body, telling us that Sosuke could only have fallen forward. And what if it? Maybe he did. Maybe he turned his head weird while trying to dodge. Things happen fast. Don't try to bullshit a bullshitter. Fast enough that you may have, in fact, actually struck my client from behind? Yeah, maybe. Took him by surprise when he was no threat to you. What? No. Easy target to knock out at that point. Makes sense why you wouldn't use lethal force in that scenario. No, he was... The guy's got nearly a full head on me. True. I don't deny it. Which makes it highly unlikely the witness could have simply hit him on the crown. If things happened as you say, and they had the element of surprise, he would have simply aimed for the easiest target possible. The one easiest to reach, the center or bottom of his skull. Not quite. Excuse me? I never said that my client was standing up when this happened. You mean he was asleep? No. Considering that he was struck on the crown of his head, it's obvious that at the time, Sosuke Ikaria was... Oh, he was bent over because he was trying to get his sword. My client must have been bent over. He was bent over when the witness came from behind and... Adonai. What? Why are you interrupting me now? Because I thought you would want to know you were about to phrase things in a way that would sound very silly. What are you talking about? Sarah's right, Morgan. You should let her take this one. What? It was when Sosuke bent over to pick up Yoru. That's when Officer Rogers struck Sosuke on his crown. As I've said, the one thing I do remember besides walking out there was picking up my sword. Picking it up off the ground. Having your android argue the weaker points for you now, counselor? Not exactly the bravest tactic. What are you talking about? Tactics are for freshening your breath. What? You mean Tic Tacs? What? What can you claim is weak about the argument? Positioning. If your client really had walked out of that holding room and then immediately hit from behind, where could his assailant have possibly been standing? Sosuke had to get out of his bindings first and then push open the door. Yeah. So what? And he wouldn't have been concerned with keeping quiet as he went. There would have been plenty of time for someone to hear him rummaging around in there and figure out where they could hide. In the corner of the room, here. That doesn't work. If that was the case, your client would have fallen face first here. But instead, he was apprehended here in the center of the room. Hey, makes sense to me. Looks like he dropped like a sack of potatoes by the door, sure. But then he was dragged to the center of the room. Would explain the streaks of blood we can see were discovered on the floor. That's right. So those weren't left by him gliding his feet in order to move silently. I was hoping to learn that technique. I'm sorry, Sarah. Your Honor, I fear the defense may not realize the weight of the implication that her statement carries. No, I do. If, as she claims, Sosuke Ikaria was knocked unconscious by Officer Rogers the moment he walked into the room, then my client never had any opportunity to stab Tarek Chopin in the back, and the only remaining individual who could possibly have killed him would be me. Okay. Yes. Any thoughts on that, officer? There's one thought that's been frustrating me for some time, actually. One I expected the prosecutor to voice, but perhaps I misjudged her. What? You what? None of what you're saying makes any sense. You say I hid in the corner to surprise Sosuke, and then what? And that I then what? Snuck up on Chopin? How could I do any of that if I was downstairs at the time Chopin was killed? At the time Sosuke killed him. It's not that the thought hadn't occurred to Emma, you idiot. It's that once I address this point, your entire testimony falls apart, and the truth of the case becomes crystal clear. There's no misunderstanding on my part, and I suspect none of the part of the people either. Because the truth is, when you and your partner arrived, you must have immediately... to what? What? Taken the lead? These two things don't make sense. Taken the lead. Yeah, you went first. Like, this whole time you've been telling me Chopin was up there first, but I doubt that now. You were the one who took point, not your partner. Yeah. Yeah? Okay. Excuse me? Chopin shot open the lock, sure. I believe that. He was the one all gung-ho about coming there anyway. But after entering, you went ahead of him while he covered you. What? You already told us you wanted to stall, wait for backup. If Chopin charged forward, you couldn't slow him down. But if he went first, you could go as slowly as you liked, and Chopin would be forced to match your pace. You were the one who cleared the room and shouted down that everyone was dead. I told you, I testified. So did your blue blood tail. Testified all about how you and your partner separated on the second floor. Objection, mischaracterization of testimony. The witness the defense is referring to did encounter two officers, but the witness never identified either of them. The blue blood didn't need to. All they were waiting to hear was whether any blue bloods were alive. So after Rogers shouted down to Chopin that everyone was dead, they bolted out the second floor window. And when Chopin shouted someone was in the alley, Officer Rogers opened the windows behind Creek's body to try and spot the runner. Then he ran down the fire escape to try and follow them, only to give up when he saw there was no ladder to get down with. It's entirely possible that Chopin yelled that someone was in the alley from the third floor. The scene from the crime is soundproof, remember? No one in that room would notice a commotion in the alley unless they've already opened the windows to check it. So since Chopin yelled about it, he had to have been the officer who stayed on the second floor. He had to have been. This blue blood rat of yours is just misheard, or they're lying. There's no proof for any of this. Yes, there is, officer. Oh. Found in the alley? No. Front door? No. Knife? Maybe, but still, no. Spec frequencies? No, that was only used... All these four don't work. Oh, it's scrap of paper, right? And the room below the crime scene was hidden by trash. It's found on the second floor. Hidden by trash. What? There's no proof Rogers went down the fire escape. Wait. Room below the crime scene? Wait, what do you mean? What? Let me see. Where is it? Where's scrap of paper? There it is. From the room directly below the crime scene, it was disregarded by previous sweeps of the building. Having been exposed to natural humidity for some time, the red ink was already illegible, but a watermark remains visible to the coroner. Common type of boot print, recovered from the room directly below the crime scene. Was missed or disregarded by previous sweeps. Huh? Wait, I don't actually know what I'm doing. I'm doing that, but I don't know what... Is it the scrap of... Why would it be the scrap of paper? Is it the footprint? Because it's not this shit. I mean, none of them don't really make any sense. Sorry about that. I don't know why putting my mouse over it makes it freak out so much. Anyways. Hidden by trash, room below. There's no proof that went down the fire escape. Is this the reason why? That scrap of paper was found by the second floor windowsill. But it's not just any scrap of paper. It matches the red ink documents that were found where the pod died. And it happens to have a partial boot print on it, proving that someone stomped from the crime scene down the fire escape and into the second floor. That doesn't prove anything. Your own client could have left that boot print. My client was arrested barefoot, remember? You did the arresting. Then maybe Chopin. If Chopin was the one who brought the scrap down from the third floor, that would put him behind you. Meaning you couldn't have walked in on him being attacked by Sosuke. Ugh. Counselor. Even if we accept that Rogers was on the third floor and then moved down to the second, the sequence you're describing ends with both officers reunited on the second floor, with neither of them dead. But obviously Chopin did proceed to the third floor because that's where he was killed. So now we're back where we started. No, we're not. Back to where we started. You're forgetting one key detail in this new sequence of events. At the time the officers reunited on the second floor, my client was already unconscious. Meaning the only person who had a chance to kill Officer Chopin was, in fact... None of this shit matters. This lawyer's trying to accuse me of killing my partner? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. Why would I do something like that? Depends. What? Depends where you live. Not uptown, I assume. What's it to you? Single bedroom? Yeah, whatever. Not great. Excuse me? And having to ride around all day with some insufferable spoiled rich stick in the mud? Rich stick. Knowing the whole time that your job, your whole goddamn police department, was all just a bullet point on his resume. Counselors badgering the witness in year of making an actual argument. Apologies, Your Honor. I'll state the motive plainly. Prop 492 was corrupt. Blue Bloods and worse would profit off it at the city's expense. But it would also bring economic relief and badly needed repairs to the lower wards. Might also stop the canopy from, just falling down and crushing everyone who lives there. But a climber like Chopin wouldn't care about any of that. Every photo I've seen of this guy has had this big stern frown. But I'll bet he was grinning ear to ear when he found that red ink. Oh shit, he's freaking out. Must have made you sick to your stomach. So you killed him, and then you bled him like a pig to try and destroy the documents he'd have plastered all over town. You're crazy. That's not possible. Do the people have anything to add? Emma hates losing, but she's not stupid. She must be getting sick of having to cover for this. Officer Rogers. You were the one who entered the third floor first, weren't you? What is she doing? Yes. How long were you there before your partner alerted you to someone escaping through the alley? More than 2 minutes, less than 3. You had a chance to start looking the courtroom over? Oh, start looking the room over? Yes. And did you see anything as politically explosive as what the defense has described? No, nothing of the sort. Your Honor, the witness is blatantly lying. We know the documents were there, and we know Chopin found them, because they were found underneath his corpse. And it is the defense's theory that he was killed because of those documents. Because he would have tried to make them public, essentially? Yes. That's the defense's proposed motive for this man to kill his partner? Yes. I see. But why would he be prepared to kill his partner for reading documents left out on a desk? When he had over 2 minutes to simply get rid of them beforehand. Check. Okay. Ope. A damn good question, Your Honor. Do we have an answer for it? I'm getting there. I'll get there. I'm close. His layers are falling off. This is a cold guy, cold enough to walk into that room, knock out Sosuke, and start calmly looking around. So is he lying? Did he actually see those papers? No. Emma's right. If the papers were in plain view, he'd have just tucked them into his jacket. If the papers were in plain view... Were they? Ugh, I don't remember. Where the hell did I put them, if not on the desk? I remember taking them out of Creek's safe and thinking they were nothing important, so I just... Oh yeah, it was like that. Okay. That's probably how one page got left where it could stick to the bottom of Roger's boot. But before I left, I reorganized things. Tried to make it seem like I was never there, so I stacked things neatly. Yoo-hoo, counselor. Any cuckoos in or around the nest? Pardon me, Your Honor. I was simply overthinking, to be honest. Officer Rogers didn't dispose of the red ink when he had the chance because he didn't notice the red ink. It's that simple. A simple answer to a simple question that simply doesn't measure up. If Officer Rogers didn't notice the red ink docs in the 2 minutes he had with the scene, how did his partner discover them so quickly? Neither of them were looking for illicit government documents at the site of a gang shooting. Neither of them would want to start disturbing a crime scene where there were bodies and blood all around them. Correct. Rationally, neither officer would want to start making a mess of the scene. Something must have simply caught Officer Chopin's eye. Very bad luck on his part, as it turns out. You've gotta be. What the hell are you talking about? What could it have been? Sounds like a tough question to answer. But there aren't as many possibilities to sift through as you'd think, Your Honor. Because it would have to be something that caught Officer Chopin's eye, yet not that of his partner. In other words, something at the scene that Officer Rogers wouldn't recognize. Your Honor, this is pointless. What wouldn't he recognize? If the officer knew that this was the site of the orca violence for the silent alarm, and there was blood and corpses all over the damn place... And if the red ink were not in plain sight amongst all that carnage, what could have possibly have drawn Officer Chopin's attention to them? If I need to retrace Chopin's steps specifically, was there anything in the evidence record that he left a trace on? Okay. The sound system. It's all that music. Got him jiving. Yoru, no. Oh, the dark card. I forgot about that. Not the broken bat. Dark card? Found stuck in the data pad. Wiped of all... Known to rich and criminals. And he's rich. I got you, Rogers. I got you. When Rogers first entered the crime scene, he must have seen Creek's datapad resting on top of some papers. You think the red ink documents were beneath the datapad at the time? That might explain why Rogers didn't notice them, but that's only half an answer. Then how's this? It wasn't the datapad that drew Chopin's attention, Your Honor. It was the dark card that was stuck inside of it. The dark card? Seems like little more than a fancy credit card to you or I. But if you're rich enough, it's an unmistakable sign of powerful forces at play. Exactly the kind of thing that would put a gleam in the eyes of a politically ambitious Officer Chopin. Right up until the moment he saw the bombshells hidden underneath the datapad. Your Honor, this speculation. Chopin's prints were discovered on the datapad. Your Honor, we know he must have picked it up. And that datapad was found by police on the desk, so we know he must have put it down. I'm merely proposing that he didn't put it back down in the exact same spot. Just because this dark card happened. Hey, seriously, what the hell have you been talking about? YouTube and what the shit is a dark card? You just incriminated yourself, you idiot. Cryptographically anonymous wallet card that rich people use to buy illegal drugs and gifts for their mistresses. Not common knowledge unless you ran circles as high up as the city council. Oh, yeah, you're right. I didn't know that. Never heard of that. Assumed you were being literal. It is a dark card. Yeah, to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me. Chopin going around picking up whatever he wanted at a crime scene without even radioing in first. Sounds about right. Bare hands, mouth breathing. Guy was big on following the rules, just wasn't that good at remembering any of them. Not me, though. I remember every rule. Follow them, too. Partner breaks a body cam. I request a new one. Let him use mine. Stop him from getting sued by the next punk he bumps into. It was a real risk for him. He had money. People would sue him if they could. No one would try to sue Huey Rogers. The only thing the judge could award them would be my own goddamn debts. Oh, don't tell me. Was he the fall guy for him? I don't think I'm bad with money, just bad with debt. Never seem to get rid of the stuff. But even I'm not so stupid that I wouldn't wear gloves at a goddamn crime scene. You mean, obviously, counselor. From the minute we pulled up to that building until I was relieved from duty and sent home the next morning, I was wearing gloves. 3 stories and an alleyway, and I can swear on my parents' grave I didn't contaminate 1 millimeter of it. Didn't put my greasy fingerprints on the windows, the doors, the murder weapons. You'd never know I was ever there. So you can say I did this or claim I did that. But the city's only ever going to hear that some Icarian bastard killed a bunch of blue blood punks, and that Tarek Chopin died a hero trying to save the day. Why would you say it like that, man? Right. Adonai, is that true? Is that possible? After all this, is it possible that... But the jury, surely they can see... The jury will see what the adjutant decides they need to see in order to properly render the verdict. If the adjutant comes to the conclusion that a witness or a line of questioning would only serve to confuse the jury... Addie, Your Honor, the jury... Give me a second to think here, girl. I'm trying to build a consensus and basically everyone's mad. So maybe the adjutant rules in our favor and maybe the jury sees things our way. But there are no guarantees. After all that, it just comes down to a gamble. Always does. Yeah. But you still get a chance to sculpt your hand. And I can do a lot better than this pile of shit. Just have to take my licks first. Your Honor, I disagree. About what, exactly? About all of it. About everything. Look, we know someone moved from the 3rd floor to the 2nd floor via the fire escape because of that scrap of paper, which would have put them in the perfect position to walk up behind Chopin. And we know Chopin picked up the datapad because his fingerprints are on it. So we can reason Chopin was investigating the desk before he died. And of course, we know he died reading the red ink documents because, duh, his body was found collapsed on top of them. Put that all together and nothing. You still have nothing. Nothing except circumstantial evidence tying this witness to a theoretical sequence of events. Emma, did you get hit in the head too? What? We have Officer Rogers' fingerprints on the murder weapon. What? They'll never go all in unless they think your hand is crap. Oh. Put on a show. Wait, what? What? Put on a show? Oh, okay. Oh. Used to KO Sosuke, striking back his head. No shots fired. Wait, this is the only thing I have? I'm putting on a show. His prints were on the pistol he used to bludgeon my client, of course. What? What are you? No, they aren't. As he said, he was wearing gloves. Also, that gun was never fired. What are you talking about? Wait, what? Now that you mention it. Yeah. Shoot, did I get my notes mixed up? What? Oh, I have to take a bunch of hits. Ah, I see. A broken bat. That's right, the bat. Did you think we wouldn't notice you left your fingerprints on it just because it was broken into splinters? The baseball bat used on Trey? Forensics failed to put a single print from that. Is this your idea of a joke? Jeez, take it easy. I misspoke a little. Also, I don't have my reading glasses. What? I see. This is all a big lead up. That's fucking fun. The Magus is used to kill tanks in Creek. Pretty stupid to forget you wipe your prints off a piece of that piece that gaudy, don't you think? Counselor, what is this? Are you throwing a tantrum? Making a mockery of the courtroom? The only prince on the gun belonged to is Sosuke Korea. Oh, sorry. I guess I was thinking of another case. Is there perhaps a gas leak on the other side of the courtroom? Wait. Stab Miller in the throat with it. I'm scorched. Well, I feel stupid. What I've been trying to say is that Officer Rogers failed to notice that he left his fingerprints on the most important weapon of all. The very blade that took his partner's life. Enough of this embarrassment. What the hell is wrong with you? I knew a mob lawyer would be corrupt and vile, but how can you be such a stupid bimbo? Do you think we're all idiots? My fingerprints aren't on that goddamn knife, and you know it. My mistake. I can see here that, yes, I was misreading the fine details, and it does appear that your fingerprints are not on that knife. Sorry. You. Oh, dear. What? What? What is it? Oh, I guess we're all just wondering. How long have you known it was this knife that was used to kill your partner? What? Confused? So are these two. Because like you, neither of them were in the courtroom when Dr. Sato updated her autopsy report. So, I knew that Chopin was killed with a knife. And the people knew that Chopin was killed with a knife. But how did you know that? There must have been 50 cops in here when that doctor... Far fewer than 50, actually. More like 0. We had already emptied the courtroom by then. A courtesy we extended to a blue blood witness. You. For some blue blood rat. You crazy harpy. Trying to trick me at the last second? You think I walked in here unprepared? No, of course not. She right there, Rockford, the prosecutor. Before I took the stand, she told me all about the knife. Ah, so that's your plan. Right, Rockford? Before I came out here, didn't you? It's always great to reveal a full house and rake in the pot. It's even better to reveal a handful of shit you bluffed your way to victory with. Say something already. Just say it. But every now and then, a different kind of victory comes along, where you just get to sit back and watch someone else self-destruct, because they completely misread the dealer. Say it. Say that you... Shut up. What? Just shut up. Is that so hard? Are my instructions unclear? Do you need me to salute you first? Stop talking. You are completely, utterly, 100% guilty. Why the hell would I perjure myself to help you? But, hey, start counting. Because from this second on, every word that comes out of your mouth adds directly to the number of years you're going to rot in jail. Unless those words are your confession. He's the Hound of Icaria. He murders for the mob. We could put him away. They don't want to put him away. Not for your crime. Not for murdering the son of 2 city councilmen. Have you lost your goddamn mind? But he's a murderer. Well, not all murders are created equally. Well, not all murders are hunted equally. Nobility assassinating each other? Let it ride, keeps them divided. Orcas fighting the lore wards? Let them sort it out, keeps their numbers down. A monster shoots 6 women in the heart and leaves no evidence behind? Call us back when he kills someone important. Strange, once she's properly infuriated, there's usually no stopping her. Well, if she's not going to twist the knife herself, I shouldn't let it go to waste. Your Honor, if the witness is having trouble choosing a place to start for his confession, perhaps I might help by laying out the details for him. You sadistic bitch! He was counting on Emma to step in. Now he's sliding down the rocky face of despair. Fingernails split and bloody as he attempts in vain to slow the descent. Not very dignified, so I won't leave him hanging. I'll be happy to speed him along. In summary, a week ago you acquired a blue blood distress signal when you arrested Tanks, but your partner insisted on letting him go and keeping the code to yourself. So the night of the murder, when the alarm went out, he jumped at the chance to be the first unit on the scene at what could be a gang shootout. You did all you could to stall, but your partner pressed on and even shot open the door in his hurry to get into the locked building. You made up an excuse to keep on the 2nd floor and proceeded to the 3rd on your own, relieved that everyone was already dead, and puzzled by the delirious Sosuke, who you knocked out with one blow to the back of the head. But by calling down to your partner to convince him you were already too late, you alerted an orca hiding downstairs. And when they fled out the window and down to the alley, you opened the windows at the crime scene to give chase. While you were scanning the alley from the 2nd floor fire escape, your partner proceeded upstairs, where he was just as stunned as you were, but intrigued by the presence of a dark card you'd never recognize. He knew that it pointed towards the involvement of powerful parties. It was simply bad luck that he found the red ink before you. But he must have felt like he'd won the lottery. He was the one man in the city who'd benefit the most from exposing the corruption it hinted at. He must have been salivating at the opportunity right in front of you, standing in the blood without a second thought. You had taken the knife from Sosuke, hadn't even thought about it until that point. You knew once the rest of the force arrived that there'd be no stopping the Redding from going on the record. You had one chance to blot it out for good. That's all. That's all a lie. Just smoke and mirrors, tricks and guesswork. The Hound of Icaria standing right there next to you. The Blue Bloods themselves even tried to kill him, right in front of all of us. No, they didn't. Excuse me? I have it on very good authority that Blue Bloods wouldn't want my client assassinated. Oh, I'm sure. So considering where the shooter was and the direction he was aiming, the only person he could have been aiming at would be, well... you! What the hell are you talking about? Seems like the old guard wanted to make sure there'd be a swift punishment for letting Prop 492 blow up. So you can keep protesting your innocence if you want. It might work out. And you might be able to avoid the next blue blood to come after you, and the next after that. You might survive just long enough to end up the only casualty in a tragically unavoidable case of friendly fire. Your blues coming after you from above and below. Who gets there first is a coin toss. So tell me, you feeling lucky? Damn, you're wrecked. Well, you... Any questions? You and this DA, your officer? You're both. You're all out of your damn minds. Oh, he folded. Oh, Officer Rogers. You dumb piece of crap. Do you work for the Blue Bloods? Never thought of it that way. Even back when I was a kid, I thought they were just another institution. Like a neighborhood watch, people looking out for each other. Everyone's parents off working or enlisted or in jail for civil disobedience. Whole neighborhoods that cops, medics, goddamn firemen wouldn't set foot in. Didn't see it as a transactional. Thought I was just lending a hand. My blood ain't worth shit. I wasn't useful enough to be a young blood, not good looking enough to be a host. But I kept going to school. They helped me pay for it. And because it was, in fact, transactional, they expected me to get something in return. Police Academy. Their man on the inside. Wasn't as exciting as it sounds. I made sure it wasn't. Test scores sucked. Aptitude sucked. Clumsy and boring. I made sure no one would want to give me anything important to do. Valuable enough that the Blue Bloods wouldn't out me. Not valuable enough that the cops wouldn't give me anything worth passing on. The world's worst double agent. So bad at his job, he'd never be expected to double-cross anyone. Imagine the look on my face when my reputation for nothingness gets me paired up with the worst babysitting job on the force. Tariq Chopin. Man, this dude just sucks. We were perfectly matched in a way. I didn't want to be near nothing, and nobody wanted to let him near anything. Nothing dangerous enough to get him hurt. Nothing real enough that he'd go blabbing to his dads. But we went around the schools. Those are the jobs we'd get. Building security. Morning assemblies. Telling kids what cops do. Here's how to call for help. We were a goddamn joke. You chose that, man. You chose to be a joke. There are worse things to be. You think I don't know that? You think I gave a shit that kids were laughing at us in the back of the class? That teens were throwing soda cans at our car? Good for them. At least they were having fun. Tarek was never having fun. He was just burning inside. Humiliation and bile, a stomach full of it. If he hadn't found the code on tanks that day, I don't know. Guy would have either put on his 2 weeks notice or just drawn his gun and walked out into the nearest Orca mansion. So when you two arrived at the building, happened like the defense attorney said. Told Chopin some bullshit about smelling contraband on the second floor. He started poking around, and I went straight to the third floor because that's where the bosses would hang out back when I was a kid, where they'd give us spare change to buy their groceries and pick up their laundry. Never met this creek or this pod in my life until we stopped Anchor Tan. Different gens. And I've never seen anything like the bloodbath in that room. All 4 of the pods were dead when I got there. Believe me. Don't believe me. I ain't no Hound of Icaria, and I don't even think he could have done that either. Considering how he stumbled out of that water closet like a bloody water balloon. I did whack him on the back of the head, but my hand to God, I'm not convinced it did anything. Face down in the blood like that, couldn't have woke him up with a nuke. When the Hound dropped, I searched him, followed protocol, found that knife in his hand. I called down saying everyone was dead, that Blue Blood bolted. Tarek called them after them. And yeah, I opened the window and tried to follow. And I guess Tarek didn't know the ladder was out. Figured I would chase them down because by the time I stepped back inside, he was upstairs. And I walked up those steps expecting him to be puking, crying, shaking. I don't know. Instead, he starts yelling down, happy, ecstatic. Can't believe this scoop of the century. And I realize I know what he's talking about. Your Blue Blood superiors let you know about Prop 492. Lots of people knew the deal with Prop 492, even non-blooded civvies. Nothing wrong with any of that, so as long as it stayed a rumor. So as long as the state didn't know as long as the state didn't know we knew where the pillars were going to be built. It was a nice thing, believe it or not. People in the lower wards whispering about big money coming in. A little excitement to look forward to. Tarek was excited too. All he could see was forward, barely reading the words in front of his eyes, not giving a shit about anything behind him, not caring about what he was trampling over. I didn't plan on doing anything, if that matters, if you care. I was moving slow, but I wasn't trying to hide. I just, after taking it off the hound, still had that knife, that goddamn knife in my hand. You all seem like educated people, so I take it none of you all believe in evil. We believe in evil, down in the lower wards. It's like a fog. Hangs around certain people, places, and it poured off that knife like a water fountain. The devil made you do it? Haven't heard that one in a while. If it wasn't for that dark card being there, that's us. You know, Tarek told me once, said he wanted to become mayor. I just did this stupid fake laugh and told him he had my vote. I don't know why I did that. Shouldn't have done that. Laughed at him? Shouldn't have lied to him. And so, Your Honor, the people will be dismissing the charge of homicide in the first degree with prejudice. What does that mean? They can't charge you with Officer Chopin's murder again at a later date just because they found more evidence. And the 4 other charges of second-degree homicide? We'll be dismissing the 4 charges of second-degree homicide without prejudice. So she's not quite convinced I couldn't have killed Creek's pod. Miller's blood having already been on the knife you used to get free in the first place was pretty huge. Combined with Rogers admitting that you basically stumbled out, a walking corpse. But the way the state sees it, their murders aren't any more solved than they were at the beginning of this trial. It's to be expected. Then the jury will be dismissed. This court will be adjourned. And you, Mr. Ikaria, are free to go. Everything that's happened to you the last few days, how is that leaving you so shocked? I'm not shocked. I'm just grateful, counselor. You have my... Your Honor, is there perhaps something else you wanted to say? Well, if you insist. I guess, for some reason, even though the jury's been dismissed and it's actually their job to do this part and the charges were dropped, I have this strong, overwhelming urge to say, not guilty. No, that needs to be much bigger. Maybe, I cast ye innocent? No, that sounds dumb. Amazing. Woo! Trial over. All right. I'm not. State building. Floor 48. Hey, we made it out. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it here, and then we're going to get the conclusion to the episode in the next one. Sorry, this one's a little bit late. Just didn't have time to finish this off, and it usually takes more than an hour to do half of one of these, so it's good. But we figured it out. The conclusion was a little more, less black and white than I thought it would be, but also pretty thoughtful. It was kind of a sort of headspace to be in. I was like, what would I do if I was in Roger's position? Not that I would purposely make my life incredibly boring, but hey, some people have different, I don't know, goals, motivations. With that said, we're going to leave it here, and we'll conclude this story in the next one.